This is my Great Tusk Land Collapse Mill deck. I've been having so much fun with this deck the last few days. This is the deck list that I've managed to come up with to best suit the current meta. Of course, we're going to have the 4 Great Tusk. We want to use its Land Collapse attack, that if we have used an Ancient Supporter card, we do discard 3 more cards, with a total of 4 cards being discarded. Discarding 4 cards can heavily disrupt your opponent. If you're playing like a Charizard deck and you mill 2 or 3 rare candies, it's basically just game over. We do play a double Mimikyu for EX-based decks like Raging Bolt, Charizard. Basically, all of the big basic decks right now do not like to see Mimikyu. They normally only play 1 Canceling Clone to get around it, so we do play the double Mimikyu so we can have 1 in the active and 1 on the bench in case there's some weird, shenanigans with, what's his name, Iron Bundle. We don't like to see Iron Bundle. We do play the one of Mawile. Tempting Trap is really, really good. Sometimes you just kind of get in the late game. Your opponents used all their switching options. You see they've used their Professor Turo, their Thorntons. You could just bring up something like a Rotom V or just something that can't attack, and you just trap it in place. And if they can't get out of that Tempting Trap with a switching card, then they just lose. You cannot retreat with energy using Tempting Trap. So sometimes this is just a win condition all by itself. Pidgeot V is here for the use of the 4 Seal Zone, and it's also used for its Vanishing Wings ability to be put back in our deck. Sometimes if we're using a lot of Explorer's Guidance, we do deck out ourselves, so we put this back in deck, so we always have a refresh of 2 cards at the bare minimum. We do run the 1 Tatsugiri with the 2 Rescue Boards. I really like having the 2 Rescue Boards. We always want 1 for Tatsugiri, but sometimes we also need to just get out of the active with Mawile, Pidgeot, Mimikyu, and then we can use Pidgeot to put the Rescue Board back, or just have another pivot option. Prizing a Rescue Board feels really bad. If we prize the Tatsugiri, we do have the 1 Heavy Ball. Radiant Greninja, self-explanatory. You discard an energy, draw 2 cards, just a really good draw engine. With Tatsugiri, Radiant Greninja, you can normally get just about everything you need every single turn. Chaining attackers can be difficult sometimes, but that's why we have the Mimikyu and the Mawile with the 4 counter catcher, so we can take turns off if we do not have the Land Collapse every single turn. Tatsugiri with its attract customers is just so good. You get a trainer card basically every single turn off of its attract customers ability. You do look at the top 6. Paired up with the Pokégear 3.0, you're almost always getting a Sada or an Explorer's Guidance. Sometimes you do get a hold of an Eri. Like if you see your opponent play like an Arven, they grab a rare candy, but they don't play it. Having Eri is just really, really nice. They do like to hoard like switching cards and things like that in their hand as well. So being able to get those out of hand is just really, really nice. 4 Sada Vitality, 4 Explorer's Guidance, obviously for the Land Collapse. Explorer's Guidance is tough. Sometimes you end up having to discard things you really, really don't want to. We do run 1 Pal Pad. We'd like to be able to put back our Professor Sada's Vitality specifically. We like to be able to chain the Vitalities. We only draw 3 cards instead of 6. And we attach 2 energies to our Great Tusk so we can chain those attackers back to back. It's very similar to like Ancient Box in that way and Raging Bolt. You want to chain attackers back to back. Milling every single turn is just really, really difficult for your opponent to handle. Handheld Fan is really good in the early game. A lot of decks have really started to cut down on energy. You'll see in today's matchup, we're only going to include 1 matchup today because most of them are pretty straightforward. You wall with Mimikyu, you just, if they're hyper aggressive, you just mill aggressively and then end it off with Mawile. We only have 1 Dragapult matchup, and like in the Dragapult matchup specifically, Handheld Fan's really nice because they usually only play 3 Psychic, 3 Fire. If you just go after their Fire energies, put them on their Rotom or whatever they have, then they just can't attack. And if you put like Mawile in the active with all of their energy attached to the Rotom and you use Tempting Trap, they just can't retreat. And Gravity Gemstone does a similar thing. If you have a Great Tusk in the late game in the active and they've used all their switching cards, you can put the Gravity Gemstone on your Great Tusk and you could bring up something with 1 retreat cost, giving it 2 retreat costs so they can't attach or they can't retreat with a single energy attachment. This is like a must-have card for the late game. Sometimes you do have to dump it for early game setup, but having this in the late game is so strong. We do play 3 Artazon. Artazon is a gold mine, getting our Great Tusk, getting our Mimikyus, getting our Tatsugiris. You really like having Artazon in play basically all the time. Neutralization zones for the end game. If you keep up with your opponent's deck list and you know how many stadiums they play, if they play a Lost Vacuum, knowing when to play Neutralization Zone is the biggest key to this deck. If your opponent's playing Area 0 and you've milled 4 Area 0 underpaths, you play Neutralization Zone, there's a good chance they're going to have a really hard time attacking you. It's basically a Mimikyu in the form of a stadium. It's also just a really good stadium bump. We want to have 4 stadiums because we want to be able to bump all of these Area 0 underpaths. If we play our Artisans and we bump their stadiums and they play a stadium and then we mill a stadium, it just has the same effect. You want to get Neutralization Zone when you have 1 or 2 prizes card left. You play down the Neutralization Zone with only a couple of basic Pokemon in play, and they just can't do anything about it. We do have the one Accompanying Flute. This is kind of just like a fun card. If you were going to cut a card, it would probably be this card. But if you don't see this card until the late game, and if your opponent's tried really hard to just keep only Pokemon that could attack on their bench, Accompanying Flute can grab Radiant Greninja, it can grab a Rotom V, it can grab a Squawkabilly. It can grab something that you're able to use Counter Catcher on to trap in the active spot. We do have 5 a basic Fighting Energy, 1 basic Psychic. Sometimes you do want to attack with Mimikyu, not very often, but if you go first and you start Mimikyu and you can manually attach, we do run the 3 Earthen Vessels to be able to find energy pretty aggressively. Attacking with Mimikyu isn't terrible, but we do run the 1 Psychic just in case we need to, and then we have the 1 Jet Energy to be able to bring up Great Tusk with a Professor Sada. You want to use your double turbo energies on the turns that you're using Explorer's Guidance, allowing you to mill 4 cards. Pretty straightforward deck list. I can't really think of anything that I would want to change. The Accompanying Flute's probably the 1 card I would cut, but there's just not anything that I really think that we have to have. We could run a 2nd Tatsugiri. That would be nice. We could run a 4th Artisan. Those are probably the only things that I really see. We could run a Xerosix Mechanician or a 2nd Eri over the Accompanying Flute, but I really like being able to grab, random Pokemon out of their deck with Accompanying Flute, and it's an item card. We can still play our supporter, and we don't have to use our supporter for turn to try and grab a Pokemon out of their hand with Erica's Invitation. Let's hop into that Dragapult matchup. That's our absolute worst matchup, and let's see how it works. Our opponent's letting us go first, which is okay. We can go first. Allows us to get set up a little bit better normally. Pile is okay. Do have an Artisan in hand to grab a Great Tusk. We can also, hopefully, maybe we get something off the Heavy Ball. All right, Dragapult. Again, I don't even want to give them the Artisan. I don't think we're going to play the Artisan. Yeah, we're not going to play the Artisan because we don't want to give them a possible Pidgey Dreepy. Like, if they don't have a Buddy Buddy Puff and Nest Ball in hand here, us giving them the Artisan could be what saves their game a little bit. If we get Explorer's Guidance or Professor Sada, we do have a 4-card mill next turn, which is nice. Tatsugiri, gonna retrieve customers for a Arven. Bet. Ah, they whiffed it. I feel like every time my opponent uses attract customers, they always get exactly what they need. All right, we're gonna put the Artisan down now. This is exactly why we didn't put the Artisan down until just now. I think we just go ahead and grab another Great Tusk, and we're going to Pokégear for a Guidance. We need so many of these cards. I think we can dump a double turbo. I think we need a Handheld Fan, and I think we need a Super Rod. I don't like that. Could take Eri as well. I think with the low amount of energy they play in this deck, I think we want 2 Handheld Fans. I think we want 2 Handheld Fans. Could be a mistake. We're about to find out. All right, we got the switch. All right, that's great. Normally, they only play the 1 switching option. Some people play Thornton, some people play Turf. Just depends on what their list is. They're probably going to grab the... Are they not playing Pidgeot? Is Pidgeot just not the deck anymore? Pidgeot could just not be the deck. Interesting. The real question is do we Nest Ball and concealed cards away our double turbo? I think we do. I think we have to conceal cards away a double turbo energy. Doesn't feel great, but getting a Explorer's Guidance right here does feel really good. Ooh. I don't think we need Tatsugiri. We do need Tatsugiri, don't we? That was a tough one. I really wanted the Counter Catcher as well. Go ahead and hit him with Land Collapse. Maybe we'll get a couple rare candies. We got 2 rare candies. That's amazing. We love to see it. Eventually, they're going to get an Arven, right? Here's Arven. Grab the rare. Leave them with 1 left. We grab a Duskull here. There's the Duskull. We could be in trouble here, guys. getting rid of the energy. We really needed that energy. Still got to have the retreat here. They've been playing a lot of energy. They have the retreat. They do have the retreat, which is fine. We're just going to take their fire energy and we're going to push it over. Now let's see what they damage us with. Are they just going to go after the full send on the Tatsugiri? That's fine. That's fine. I think we have to send up the Tatsugiri. I think they do 3/3 on the Psychic Fire. So they've got one Psychic and one Fire in here, so we just moved it didn't really matter which one we moved over, but can't attack with the Fire Energy. So that's why we chose the Fire Energy there. Catcher is fantastic. We'll do Artazon. Do want to grab out basically anything we can from our deck because we want the best chance to get a Professor Sada here, which we whiff. Oh, jeez. We want all of these cards. I think we want the Flute most of all here. Fantastic. Now we have a counter catcher target. I think we need to concealed cards here. There's a Jet. Doesn't help. Odds are they don't have... I mean, if they have an energy in hand, sure. There's a Rotom. They're probably going to instant charge here. I mean, Rotom 4 Seal Stone in hand's pretty nice too. See what they do. There's Arven. Do they have another switch? That's the real question. Do they have another switch? Sparkling Crystals. So they do have the retreat. I think we just push the Mawile because they're definitely gonna have an attack here. Their last 2 energy though. Sparkling Crystal's fine. Rotom V's fine. They better have a switch because I think they just grabbed their last 2 energy. Not 100% sure what they're doing here. Maybe they're going after... I don't know. You're gonna take the Tatsugiri, but then I just push. Okay. That makes sense. They'll get 2 prizes here. That kind of changes things a little bit because we were going to push up the Mimikyu. I think we just pushed the Mawile at this point. Energy, attachment, and retreat. Instant charge, no retreat. Okay, we're in business. All right, we're going to attract customer. Can we get a Sada? We did get a Sada. We got 3 Sada off of our cards. That is amazing. Let's see what's in here. Counter catcher. Those are pretty tough prizes, not going to lie. I don't like having those 2 on the bench like that because that's... If they get the Dragapult in play, that's 3. Do we make them have the stadium? All right, we got to put back... I think we got to put back the Pidgeot. We're going to land collapse, see what we get a hold of here. I was tempted to put back the Pidgeot with the Super Rod, but I think I want them to take 1 more knockout, and I want to be able to get back the Mimikyu as well. They should have the switch here. Like, there's 3 energy here, 5, 6. It could be all their energy, actually. Okay, they had 1. All right, so they are going to get 3 prizes here. They got all their fire in there. We're going to move the fire to the Radiant Greninja. Then if we get a counter catcher, we're going to bring up the Rotom. Probably should have played the Neutralization Zone just to force them to have the stadium bump. But they haven't played top deck counter catcher. Gotta love it. All right, we do want to put back this. We want to put back this. Actually, we have one of those in hand. I think we have to put back these 3. Professor Sada right there was huge. I was kind of holding my breath. I thought we were going to miss it. All right, we put the Gravity Stone here. Make them have to have 2 energy or a switching option. I think we play the Neutralization Zone. Otherwise, we could lose to Dragapult 60 damage. Let's just go ahead and do the Neutralization Zone. And let's take... Got the Temple of Sinnoh, which is fantastic. I think that's their only stadium bump. If they're playing the Dortmund list, Temple of Sinnoh was the only stadium bump. Looking at the list now. Well, you guys can look at it with me. Temple of Sinnoh. The bad part about playing well-known deck lists is it's pretty easy to see what's going on. Rare candy. They don't have any way to get a Dusclops, Dusknoir on the board. They're just kind of stuck. Unless they play a Turo. They could play a Turo. It's definitely a possibility. I think maybe the Neutralization Zone just got them. Don't know what that does. Are they just like evolving everything before they can see? I think it's game over. Neutralization Zone for the win. Us milling that stadium right there was huge. I kind of figured it was just sitting in their hand. Some people have been doing like Pokemon League headquarters instead of the Temple of Sinnoh. Just kind of depends on what your meta is. All right, we got it. I guess we can... Professor Sada. We'll do the Vanishing Wings. We'll mill with Land Collapse. We'll mill 4. Is that a double Rotom? Double Rotom. That's interesting. All right, Iono. It's not over yet. This Gravity Stone's putting in work right now. And there's the concession. We got a hold of their switch. We got a hold of their stadium bump, so they couldn't get rid of Neutralization Zone, and that's just game over.